If you've ever been to New Orleans, then I'm sure you've stopped by Café Du Monde for a delicious beignet. And if you haven't, you seriously need to. New Orleans style beignets are square-shaped pieces of dough that are deep fried then coated with powdered sugar. And today I'm going to show you how to make these little heavenly pillows right in your own kitchen. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe. We're going to start with 4 cups of flour, followed by 2/3 cup of granulated sugar, 3/4 cup lukewarm water, and when I say lukewarm, I mean 90 to 100 degrees Fahrenheit. A 1/2 cup milk, also lukewarm, 2 1/4 teaspoons salt, 2 teaspoons vanilla extract, 1 egg. I like to whisk it ahead of time just so it gets distributed evenly. Then we'll add 3 tablespoons of melted butter, or room temperature, but I just didn't feel like waiting for mine to soften, so. Then 2 teaspoons of instant yeast. You can use active dry yeast, but I do prefer the instant. If you do use active, make sure to let it dissolve in warm water first. Now we're going to bring all of this together. I do think a stand mixer is the way to go with these. It just makes the dough more uniform, but they are totally doable by hand. It'll just require a little more elbow grease. I like to mix it with a silicone spatula until nearly all the flour is gone, then switch to my hands to further knead. I find that the standard stretch and fold method works best here. I know this can be a bit tiring, but knead for a minute or two, rest for a minute, then just continue. We want the dough to be as smooth and uniform as possible. The dough should be kind of sticky at this point, but still manageable. If your dough is too wet, feel free to add a little bit of flour. Once your dough is properly kneaded, it's time to let it rise. Cover with a wet cloth or saran wrap and let it rest for 2 to 3 hours at room temperature. You can also place these in the fridge for up to 48 hours if you want to prep them ahead of time for future use. After a couple hours, the dough should have about doubled in size. I like to give it a little jiggle just to wake it up from its nap. Next, I will flour my work surface and dump everything out. It should come right out with the help of a spatula. I'll then add a little bit of flour on top just to make it easier to handle. I'm going to form the dough into a rough rectangle by pressing down and pushing it out. Make sure not to push it down too much. I like to keep the thickness around 3/4 of an inch to 1 inch. That gives us nice, puffy, cloud-like beignets. On the other hand, we also don't want them so thick that the insides don't cook properly. Next, I'm just going to slice these with a regular pizza cutter. You can use a knife, but I find the pizza cutters pretty easy. They don't have to be perfect. As you can see, mine are not going to be the same size. But I like to have varying sizes, so it's totally up to you. I'll slice vertically, then horizontally. I'll have some larger ones, as you can see on the left side, then a bit smaller on the right. I like to use my bench scraper to separate them and prepare them for frying. They should be pretty easy to handle at this point. Now that our dough is prepped and sliced, it's time to prepare our oil. I'm just using standard vegetable oil here, but you can use avocado or peanut oil if you prefer. It's very important that the oil is the correct temperature. I like to keep it hovering around 375 to 380 degrees. That will allow the outsides to brown properly, but also give the insides ample time to cook. Carefully place the beignets in the hot oil. I'm going to cook the larger ones first, so I'll just add 2 in this first batch. They only need about 2 to 3 minutes on each side. Once they're golden brown, flip it over and allow the other side to cook. That crackling you hear is actually water that I had on my tongs after rinsing them. Try not to do that. Once golden brown on both sides, transfer to a cooling rack lined with paper towels to absorb any of the excess oil. The next batch, I'll add 3 since these are a bit smaller. I don't want to state the obvious here, but always take extra caution when cooking with hot oil. Continue to cook working in batches until they all have a beautiful golden color. Don't worry if some are a bit darker than others. They're all going to be dusted with copious amounts of powdered sugar anyway, so it doesn't really matter. Now for my favorite part, dusting with sugar. Generously dust with powdered sugar until they are completely covered. Some people like to do both sides, but I think it's a bit overkill. I just don't think it's necessary. One side of sugar is definitely enough. And that's all there is to it. I guarantee you will love these beignets. They are perfect with a cup of coffee in the morning. They are almost as delicious as what you would get in New Orleans. Of course, the pros down south in the Big Easy have mastered beignets. But if you're looking for something comparable without having to fly to Louisiana, then these are perfect. As always, ingredients and directions will be in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Thank you so much for watching.